Hi, I'm Daniel Roth. I'm the executive editor of LinkedIn. Today we're pleased to have with us Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the UN. Ban Ki-moon is the 8th Secretary General and is in what has been called the world's hardest job. Well, let's talk about one of your largest goals that you set out, which is eradicating or stopping the pace of climate change. This September at the UN, you're asking countries to stand up and boldly declare what they're going to do to stop climate change, to help push renewable energy. For someone like you and for the UN, which has spent so much time working behind the scenes, getting people to agree to frameworks, doing quiet diplomacy, why the sudden shift to kind of a more name and shame of a stand and declare type framework?
United Nations goal is to make this whole world sustainable in terms of social, economic, and environmental way. But we have to respect and understand that there is a planetary boundary limit. I'm afraid to say that we may be stepping on a tipping point, depending upon where and how we step ahead. We may be able to achieve a sustainable world for succeeding generation, coming generations, but otherwise we may have to regret for what we have not been doing. That's why I have been raising my voices to the world leaders. Everybody should work together, particularly business communities, and I'm now reaching out to civil society leaders. And this is your world, and this is our world, a common world. Therefore, everybody should feel a common responsibility.
One of your focuses, both externally and internally at the UN, has been on women in power, making sure that there are women who are in leadership positions, who are getting proper education. How did you decide that that would be one of your major areas of focus?
When I first took over my job in 2007, January 2007, there were not many women leaders. There are many women in the lower rank, and mostly the senior positions were taken by men. I'm also coming from a very conservative country, Korea. But I thought, as a Secretary General, that first of all, the human rights and social, economic, and political opportunity of women should be further promoted. So I began to recruit very able and capable, intelligent women leaders from around the world. And now I'm very glad to tell you that we are almost at par between men and women at the senior level. I'm very pleased to see when I convene a meeting, around my table, there are quite a number of women leaders who are working with me. For the first time in the history of the United Nations, I have appointed the first woman force commander for UN peacekeeping operations.
Let's talk a little bit about how you manage. This has been called by the first Secretary General the hardest job in the world. How do you manage how do you set the agenda, not just for world leaders and countries as you described, but also for the employees of the UN, for your staff, and for yourself? How do you figure out what to tackle on your to-do list?
Each day I try to think, what should I do for whole world, particularly for developing world people who would be looking to the United Nations. There are many people, who are vulnerable, a group of people who do not have any capacity unless UN really reaches out. When I was a young boy, as Korea was totally devastated, it was United Nations, UNICEF, UNESCO, UNDP, or UN peacekeepers who brought us peace, and who brought us something to eat, something to read, and to play with even. Then UN was a beacon of hope to us, to all of us. Now, I was struck to find out there are still many people, billions of people, who regard United Nations as a beacon of their hope. So I just wanted to continue what I received from the United Nations to deliver, to give them. So I always tell them, look, your situation may be very dire, very difficult, but do not lose hope, but do not despair. There is a United Nations. We can play a role and give a sense of hope to you. For that purpose, I'm always motivated. And much stronger motivation drives me to work. Yeah.
And that's outward facing. How do you motivate the people who report to you and the people who report to them and who come from all different walks of life in so many different countries and different economic situations?
I think I try to lead by example. First of all, I want to show that I am like you, and I'm one of you, and you should also be me, or you should be also part of the United Nations. Then I always try to do and to show that this is the right way to do. This is a motivation, and constantly move and constantly meet people. By doing that, I can expand my vision and understanding of the situation. I got strong support from a General Assembly, what we call mobility policy. So I want to have all UN staff to have better and greater and different perspectives rather than stuck into a certain positions. When you get stuck into one position long time, you are apt to lose your vision, you are apt to lose your motivation. There's not much creativity. I really am trying to United Nations more mobile, agile, and efficient and effective. That is another way of trying to make United Nations meeting the expectation of the whole world.
That's great. Well, Mr. Secretary General, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It has been a great pleasure to join this LinkedIn.
You've been awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Can I get one picture of you? Turn around, get a picture of us in the crowd. Get it? All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for coming today. It's been great having you here.